Hey there guys, I hope you're doing well. My name's Jack Taylor and in today's video lesson I'm going to be talking to you about modes. I'm going to talk about why you need to know them, what they are, and also I'm going to show you a little bit of theory about them and how you can start to apply these shapes on the fretboard. So in today's lesson we're not going to talk too much about what the different modes are and what different chords and stuff you can apply them to. But we're going to try and learn the shapes today. It's really important that you've got the shapes down before you try and get into using them musically, because if you don't know how to play them on the fretboard, you're not really going to stand a chance of using them musically. Maybe next week I'll do a lesson on improvising with the modes, or maybe I'll take one of them, but we'll see how we go with that, okay? So what are modes? So people often get really confused about modes because it sounds like a bit of a kind of highbrow term or something like that. But actually, the term modes, it's just another name for a scale, okay? So just like you have a regular C major scale like this, this is also a mode. It's also known as the C Ionian Mode. And in the world of modes, we often get different groups of modes. So we'll get major scale modes, harmonic minor modes, melodic minor modes, all these different types of modes which can be used to create different colours and different textures in your own music, whether that's improvising or composing, okay? So the main group of modes that we're going to focus on today is the major scale. So we're going to be talking about major scale modes. In the world of major scale modes, you have 7 different modes. So this comes from the fact that you have 7 different notes in the major scale. Off of each of these notes you can create a new scale just by starting from a different note. So if you start from note 1, which is C, you get the first mode of the major scale, which is the C major scale or C Ionian Mode. If you start from note 2, you get the Dorian mode. So the second mode of the major scale is the Dorian scale, and that sounds like this. So that would be D Dorian, because we started from the D note and we've gone from D to D. So we've gone D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. The third mode of the major scale is Phrygian, and we're actually going to start from the E note, because the E note is the third of C. So the notes we get here are E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. So I'm just starting from each note as I go up. So we'll go up to the 4th note now, which is an F. So the 4th mode of the major scale is the Lydian Scale. In the case of C major, we're going to be playing an F Lydian Scale. So this is going to go F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay? The 5th mode of the major scale is the Mixolydian Mode, and we're going to be starting from the G note. So we're going to include the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G. Just going from G to G. Now there's only 2 more to go now. So the next mode that we have is the Aeolian Mode. So the Aeolian Mode is the 6th mode of the major scale. You might have heard of this before as natural minor. So we're actually going to start from the A note, because that's the 6th note from C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That note's an A. So we have the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. Okay. And the last one is Locrian. So Locrian's the 7th mode of the major scale modes, so the Locrian scale. So we have the notes here B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then B. Okay, so I'll go through those one more time, and what I'll do as I go through them, I'll talk about the intervals and what chords they can be used over. Okay, so the first one is Ionian Mode. So this can be used over a major 7 chord or a major chord. Okay, so the the intervals that we have here are root, major second, major third, perfect fourth, fifth, major sixth, major seven, and root. Okay. When we go to Dorian, which is the second mode of the major scale, we have the notes root, major second, flat 3, perfect fourth, fifth, major sixth, flat 7, and root. So we can use the Dorian scale over the minor 7 chord, over like D minor 7. Okay, then we get to E Phrygian, right? So the notes we have here are E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And the intervals for those are root, flat 2, flat 3, perfect fourth, fifth, sharp 5 or flat 6, flat 7, and then the root again. So we could actually use this over minor 7 chords, or one way that people will use this is they'll use Phrygian over the 5 chord. I think we'll probably get into this in more depth in a future lesson, but you could use the Phrygian scale over sus for flat 9 chords, which sound like this. Okay, but that's something for another day. Okay, so the fourth mode of the major scale is Lydian. So here we have the notes F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then the intervals for this are root, major second, major third, sharp 4, perfect fifth, major sixth, major 7, and root. And this can be used over major 7 chords or major 7 sharp 11 chords. Really cool sound, okay? So the last couple, we've got G Mixolydian, which is our notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay? Right? So this can be used over dominant 7 chords because we have the intervals root, major second, major third, perfect fourth, fifth, major sixth, flat 7, and then root. Okay? Okay, last two. So the second to last one, the 6th mode of the major scale is Aeolian, or the natural minor scale. This can be used over minor 7 chords because it has the intervals root, major second, flat 3, perfect fourth, fifth, flat 6, flat 7, root. And the last one, Locrian, has the notes root, flat 2, flat 3, perfect fourth, sharp 4 or flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, and then root. Okay, so all the notes are flattened except for the fourth. So I'll just do those one more time. Root, flat 2, flat 3, perfect 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, root. Okay, so when you're first getting into modes, it's important to understand them from that way, because you understand them from a key center. You learn what chords are in the key that way. So over C major 7, you use C major scale. Over D minor 7, you use D Dorian. Over E minor 7, you use E Phrygian. Over F major 7, you use F Lydian. Over G7, you use G Mixolydian. Over A minor 7, you're going to use A natural minor. Over B minor 7 flat 5, you're going to use B Locrian. And you're back to C major. Okay. Now, this is a really great way of learning the modes, because you learn them from the key center, you learn the chords in the key, and you also learn what scale notes work over each chord. Okay. So, for example, if I was playing a 1, 6, 2, 5 in the key of C, if I had C major 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G G7, I could play the C major scale over the 1 chord, A natural minor over the 6 chord, D Dorian over the 2 chord, and then G Mixolydian over the 5 chord. Now, the problem that we have here when you get into this is that when people first start to do that, they'll go, okay, that's great, but what's the point in learning each individual mode if they all have the same notes in, and then I'm just going to use them over each scale. Now, the point is that I would argue the fact that if you're just playing C major over the whole thing, you're only going to be resolving to your C note, which would be like... So you can't really hear the changes, right? Whereas if you think from the root note for each chord, so like thinking, right, I'm going to play C major, A natural minor, D Dorian, G7 or G Mixolydian, you start to hear more of that chord change. So if I just play it like this, hopefully you could hear when I was playing over those changes. I didn't have a backing track or anything with me, but you hopefully able to hear the changes outlined, which is a really great way to get started with the modes. Okay, now let's get into actually learning these scale shapes. Okay, so let's start to learn some of these shapes. So we're going to do all of these shapes in the key of C. So C is going to be our tonal center. Okay. So we're going to start with C Lydian, okay? So this looks like this on the low E string. So we have our intervals like we talked about before: root, major second, major third, sharp 4, 5th, major 6th, major 7th, root. Okay, so the frets I'm playing now are fret 8 on E, 10 on E, 7 on A, 9 on A, 10 on A, 7 on the D string, 9 on D, and up to our root notes. This is just a 1 octave pattern. Okay, right, to turn this into a major scale, we're going to take this sharp 4 note and take it down a semitone to turn it into a perfect 4th. So if I play that scale now, with that note replaced, this now becomes our major scale. Okay, so we've gone from Lydian to take this note down a semitone to make it into a perfect 4th interval to get our major scale. Now, if I want to turn this into the next mode, which is Mixolydian, right, in this case, all I need to do is take one note and flatten it, and that note's going to be the major 7. So we turn this into a flat 7. So we get root, major second, major third, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, flat 7, and then root. Okay, so we've gone from Lydian with root, major second, major third, sharp 4, perfect 5th, major 6th, major 7, root. So to the major scale with root, major second, third, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, major 7, and then to Mixolydian, which has root, major second, major third, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, flat 7, root. Okay. So now, if we want to change this into a Dorian scale, we're going to change one note, which is the major third, to a minor third. Okay. So here's how we play this one. We got root, major second, minor third, flat 7, and then the root at the end. Okay, so we actually start this with our first finger with all the major type scales. So our Lydian scale, we start with our second. To start with our major scale, we start with our second finger again. To do our Mixolydian, we start with our second finger. So the fingering for those first 3 scales goes 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Then 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Then 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. So that's each of my fingers that I'm talking about there. Then when we go to Dorian, because we've changed the major third to a flattened third, we now get 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. Then we do a little shift here to do 1, 2, 4. Okay, now we're going to turn this into a natural minor scale. So the note we're going to change here is this major 6 to a minor 6 or a flat 6. Now the fingering that we get is first, third, fourth, first, third, fourth, first, third. And the intervals in that are root, major second, flat 3, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, flat 6, flat 7, root. Now, we're going to change one note in this scale to turn it into a Phrygian scale, and that's going to be the major second. I'm going to turn this into a flat 2. So now we get root, flat 2, flat 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, flat 6, flat 7, and root. So the fingering for that is first, second, fourth, first, third, fourth, first, third. So notice that all these minor type scales start with the first finger. So if you ever get lost, remember the major type scales, say the major scale, Lydian and Mixolydian, start with your second finger. The minor type scales start with your first finger. So now we just played Phrygian. Now we're going to do Locrian, and then we're done. That's all 7. Okay. So we're going to change the 5th here to a flat 5. Okay. Because the intervals in the Locrian scale are root, flat 2, flat 3, perfect 4, flat 5th, flat 6, flat 7. So now we get the fingering 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3. Okay. So from the very beginning, we started with C Lydian. Changed our sharp 4 to a perfect 4 to turn it into a major scale. Took our major 7, turn that into a flat 7, and that becomes a Mixolydian scale. Then we take our 3rd and flatten it to turn it into Dorian. And then we take our major 6th interval to turn it into natural minor. Then we take our second, our major second, turn this into a flat 2 to turn it into Phrygian. And then we take the 5th, turn it into a flat 5 to turn it back into Locrian. So each of the fingerings that you've just used here also work on the A string. So we've done this from the C note up here on fret 8 on the E string. You can do the same thing on the A string now. So we take our Lydian scale, sharpen the 4th note, which is the sharp 4 in Lydian, to turn it into a major scale. Then we take the major 7, flatten it to turn it into Mixolydian. Then we take this note and flatten that to turn it into Dorian. Notice how I've changed to my first finger there. So I started with all the major type scales with my second finger. When I go to the minor type scales, I start with my first. Then we go to natural minor. So we take this major 6 and flatten it into a flat 6. So now we get our natural minor scale. Phrygian, turn this into a flat 2, and then into Locrian, take the 5th, flatten it, then we get. So what I think would be really useful is if I go again from the E string, I'm going to play each scale slowly, saying the intervals as I go, okay? So we've got root, major 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4, 5th, major 6th, major 7, roots. This is for the Lydian scale. Then we go to major, so root, major 2nd, major 3rd, perfect 4th. This is the note that we've changed, so we've gone from here to this note there, perfect 5th, major 6th, major 7, root. To turn it into Mixolydian, major 7 down to flat 7. So now we get root, major 2nd, 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, flat 7, root, then back down. Now we go to Dorian, so we're going to change this major 3rd to a minor 3rd. So now we get root, major 2nd, flat 3, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, flat 7, root. And now we do the same thing. We take this major 6th interval, flatten it to get our natural minor sound. So we get root, major 2nd, flat 3, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, flat 6, flat 7, root. When we turn it into Phrygian, take the major 2nd, flatten it. So now we get root, flat 2, flat 3, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, flat 6, flat 7, root. And then we get Locrian, which is taking the 5th and turning that into a Locrian scale from Phrygian to Locrian. So we get root, flat 2, flat 3, perfect 4th, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, and then root. And you do the same thing here, same fingerings, exact same fingerings on the A string. A Lydian, major scale. So we're just changing one note, change the 7, flatten that 3rd for Dorian, flatten that 6 to make it natural minor, flatten the 2nd to make it flat 2 to make it Phrygian, take that 5th, flatten it to make it Locrian. Okay, so now we need to put them on different string sets. So we can also do this on the D string. So we have to change our hand position here slightly because of the difference in tuning between G and B. So you may well know that the guitar strings are tuned in fourths. So E to A to D, D to D, D to G. Then when we get to G to B, it's tuned in a major 3rd. So that means whenever we play a scale in this type of position, we have to actually shift everything up a fret. So for Lydian, it would look like this. However, our principles are still the same. So this is our Lydian scale, which has got root, major 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4, 5th, major 6th, major 7. To turn this into major, we take this note, turn it into a perfect 4th. So the sharp 4 down to perfect 4. So now we get. To turn it into Mixolydian, take the major 7 down to the flat 7. Take the 3rd, flatten it, but make sure when you play your minor type scales, you use your 1st finger as a starting point. Now, to turn it into natural minor, we take the major 6th and flatten it, okay? So now we get. Okay, then to turn it into Phrygian, major 2nd, flatten that, so now we get our flat 2. Turn it into Locrian by taking that 5th and flattening that as well. Okay, then the only other note that we can play this on, at least for these positions anyway, is on our G string. So here's our C on our G string. and fret number 5 on G. So we do the same thing. However, our rule from before, where we talked about playing major scales with the second finger and minor scales with the first finger, it changes when we're on the G string. We just play them all with our first finger. Okay, so here's our Lydian scale. Okay, now we turn this into major. So remember that fourth, that sharp 4, is now a perfect 4. So now we get. Now we turn this into Mixolydian. We take that major 7, flatten it. Now to turn Mixolydian into Dorian, we take the major 3rd interval, and now we flatten it. So now we get this. Then to go from Dorian to Aeolian, we take the 6th interval and flatten it. So now we get this pattern. Then we turn it into Phrygian, which has got the flat 2 in. So all the other notes are the same, just flat 2 is different. And the last one, which is Locrian, it's got that taking the 5ths. Flattening that to get to our Locrian scale. Okay, now the cool things about each of these scale shapes is you can actually join them up to make 2 octave patterns. So the shape that we did on the E string joins up with the one on the D string. Okay, so when we do this, we can do this in C Lydian. Get to here, we change and shift to our second finger. So it's like playing the normal scale here, shift to second. Okay, same thing when we play the major scale. Shift to second to move you into that next position. Shift back. So the next one was our Mixolydian Scale. Then you slide up with your second finger. Then we go to our Dorian. And we shift up. So when you make this shift, on any of the scales, whatever note you're shifting to, you start with the finger which is correct for that scale that you're moving into. So for example in Dorian, you're going to go 1st, 3rd, pinky, 1st, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 1st, then shift back into 2nd. Then the same thing for natural minor, we join these up. Same for Phrygian. And same for Locrian. Right, and then we could do the same thing between the A and D shape, A and G shape. So here's our C Lydian. Now when we get to here, we're going to shift up to our first finger and play our scale shape. Shift back down to our 3rd so we can move back into the original position on the A string. Then we do the same thing for all the other shapes. So we've got our major scale. C Mixolydian. C Dorian. C natural minor. Then C Phrygian. And C Locrian. So that's all of the modes, the major scale modes, okay, just by changing one note at a time to get each one. Now, this will take a little bit of time to get under your fingers. There's no substitute for hard work and getting it under your fingers and just getting used to it, okay? However, if you do need a little bit of help, I have just launched a Patreon page where for all of my previous YouTube videos, I'm going to include tabs as well for this one as well. So if you're stuck on the shapes, you can check out those shapes there. But the most important thing when you're learning these shapes is that you just get the fingerings right. However, if you think, you know, this is loads and loads of information, don't worry, just focus on doing each string set at a time. So you might just start doing your E shapes. You can do that for each scale. Then once you've done that, you do the ones on your A string, then you do your D, then your G. And this might take you weeks or months or whatever, but you just do it until you're ready, you know. So just keep going with them and just don't lose faith, you know, all of this hard work will pay off. So what I would suggest doing is taking one shape, getting that really good, put it on all 12 keys. So you do C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, etc. until you can do all of them. Then you do the same thing on your A string, then your D, then your G. So you're doing it 12 keys each time. And then you put E and D together, do that in all 12 keys. And then you do A and G, do that in all 12 keys. And if you do that, I guarantee you'll be able to really get these shapes under your fingers and it'll really help your playing. So in the next couple of lessons, I think what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about each individual mode. I'm going to talk about where you can use them and how you can start to implement this into your own playing, okay? So I hope you've enjoyed this video lesson. If you liked what I do, please like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications on any future videos that I've got coming up. And as well, please go and check out my Patreon pages for any tabs. There's all sorts of stuff on there, so check it out. It won't be too much. I'm only going to charge you between £5 and £10 a month for this, you know, because it's just PDFs and tabs. But have a look on there. Sign up if you really, really want to. If you can't afford it, don't worry at all. Just keep checking out the channel and liking it, and tell your friends if you really enjoyed it. Okay, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you again next time.